Though, is the Labour government as chaotic as the Tories? We're taking your calls. 020 7862 2222. Think back to last May when Rishi Sunak called an election. Well, there he was in the pouring rain, almost one of those images, isn't it? Keir Starmer urged the public to vote for Labour and, quote, stop the chaos. A year after winning his landslide victory, a new poll suggests that over 70% of Brits think the Starmer government is as chaotic as the previous one, with more than a third of Brits thinking they are more chaotic than the Tories. Yesterday, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, refused to commit to scrapping the two-child benefit cap. She also commented on the government's U-turn on welfare changes and what that means for future spending.
But the decisions that have been taken in the last week do make future decisions harder. But all of that said, we will look at this collectively in terms of all of the ways that we can lift children out of poverty.
Well, let us just have a look. Remember this novel, Little Fires Everywhere, which was a big bestseller by Celeste Ng, and it became a big Netflix series, and it starred these two brilliant actors here, Little Fires Everywhere. We're wondering if we're watching the Labour version. There's Rayner, there's Reeves, and of course, in the middle of the fires is their leader, Keir Starmer. And it's a very, very tricky situation where you get lots and lots of things breaking out simultaneously that he has to deal with. But, as we mentioned, they're the ones who ran that attack line. They're the ones who said you can stop the chaos by voting Labour. They said don't make it 19 years of Tory chaos. So, in a sense, Keir Starmer has brought this on himself by saying we won't be chaotic. Let's have a look a bit more closely at these little fires that he's dealing with all over the place in front of him. So, fire number one, all the U-turns, including the big one, winter fuel and then benefits as well. But the winter fuel allowance U-turn was really, really big. It didn't look like they were going to do it. You then have the party in uproar, not just the left-wingers, but the problem of having a big majority is that suddenly the Labour backbenchers realise they're more powerful than him. This is a smaller flame, but still the freebie scandal, Starmer's glasses, the Taylor Swift tickets, people going to concerts and not paying was an issue and still is. Then you have quite a big blaze up here, the Reform Party, Nigel Farage beginning to eclipse Labour and Starmer himself taking all those working class votes. OK, seems like a long way away, over in the background, the grooming gangs story will never go away. And, of course, Starmer then U-turned on an inquiry into the grooming gangs, which hurt him as well. No wonder he's sweating. He's sweating buckets. And it's a reminder, isn't it, of the stress they're under. Because it's not just him. His Chancellor in tears in the House of Commons, Reeves in tears, one of the images of the last year, whatever the explanations that were given. It's a political image and very unfortunate. So also I must mention small boats. They have not got control of it. They said they would smash the gangs. They didn't smash the gangs. They're still coming in large numbers. And the big one, I suppose, in the background up here would be what you might call money trouble. Because in the end, the government is running a huge deficit. They haven't got the growth. Anything they do financially involves a fire breaking out. He has got a lot of burning going on around him, hasn't he, Saira?
He has, and I don't really know what more to say to that, but there you have it. So graphically proven. It's chaos. It's embarrassing. It feels like these policies are made in echo chambers and not boardrooms. The U-turns are embarrassing, and you know, somebody who's living...
Were the U-turns you wanted, though, can I ask? I mean, you're against removing the winter fuel allowance, weren't you? So they did what you wanted.
But why do a U-turn?
Well, because everyone's crying murder over it, because you're on national television saying don't take winter fuel allowance away.
Listen,
you got what you wanted.
If you are a leader...
It's a listening government.
If you are a leader and you are decisive and you know what you've got to do to hit your objective, you do not do U-turns. What they're doing is they're like, oh my God, oh no, we're going to lose the votes. Oh, we're unpopular. Oh, well, let's just give them what you want. You can't do that as a leader.
If you disagree with the government on a policy, you want them to carry on with the policy even though you think
if it is for the greater good of the country, yes.
Isn't the point, Andy, about the U-turns is that it's an acknowledgement that the initial policy was a mistake?
That's right.
And not only that, we have a whole period of months where they keep telling us why they're doing it, not because it's popular, but because it's right. and then they suddenly say, well, because it's unpopular, it's wrong. So that's the problem here.
We live in a country of lily-livered politicians who, as soon as there is some outcry or something trending on X or something like that, they vacillate.
Well, then maybe that's what Saira said.
That's what I'm saying.
No, but that's
you can't be like that if you're in government.
No, we agree, but for different reasons. I think the policy was absolutely right with removing the winter fuel allowance from people who don't need the money, and he should have stuck fast with that. And the moment he didn't stick fast with that, it was all over. However, what I will say is we're talking about someone who's surrounded by lots of little fires. Those fires were started by the previous government, OK? So it's a bit like blaming the fire service.
Take responsibility. You know those fires were there when you got into government. So now let's have a policy for getting them out.
For the fire when they're going in with the hose.
All right, but they did, in a sense, keeping our fires analogy going, they did say, right, we've got a hose, we've got a bigger hose. The small boat's an example, isn't it? So, yeah, OK, small boats started.
With the hose, and after a year, I was like, you started the fire. Well, actually, no, the fire was already burning, OK? So, OK, it's been a year. That's not a huge amount of time in politics to turn around to the ocean liner that we have of issues, the huge debt that we picked up, the problems with Brexit, whether you were supportive of it or not, and the costs of COVID lockdowns and all of those things. That's going to take a long time to sort out. I'm not saying they've got everything right, but there is, let me just say, £1 billion extra pounds over in
But are they chaotic or not?
Not.
Wow. But you think they are?
Wow.
OK, interesting division. Sue in Somerset, are they more chaotic than the Tories?
Oh, good morning. I can see everybody's fired up about this. And I just hope you can let me speak for long enough to tell you exactly what I think. Yeah, I thought the Tories made a big enough hash of it, I mean, for years. But Labour are worse. They're trashing the country. They have managed to unite the country. They've upset everyone. Fishing, farming, pensioners, the list is endless. Tax, tax, tax. I feel as miserable and angry as anything. I wake up every morning and hope it will change, and it never does. And I am terrified of the next 3.5 years. I don't want to watch him. I don't want to listen to him. He annoys me. He's very weak. I just want him gone.
Would you go back to Boris Johnson if you had to choose?
No, I wouldn't.
Well,
no, because he did awful damage. Him and Sunak, they all did awful damage. That none of them know what they're doing. It's got to take something really radical now, because this is.
Well, then you're talking about Nigel Farage, are you?
Probably. I don't. Only because they haven't messed up yet. We can't do any worse than the other two. They've really, really messed up.
Thank you so much. That's the great third-party argument, isn't it? It can't get any worse.
It can. It really
Mark
can.
in South Yorkshire, hi.
Hello, good morning, team. How are we going?
Good, thanks. Are Labour more chaotic than the Tories?
They are doing a brilliant, brilliant job.
Wow.
What they've inherited over 14 years.
Right.
They done some U-turns. They listen to the public. They're learning. They're getting on with their job, and they're doing a brilliant, brilliant job.
OK, if they were doing a really, really brilliant job, as you say, why do they keep reversing and junking their policies?
Because they're listening to the people.
But why do they have the policy in the first place, then?
Everybody has a policy, what they pick on and stick to. But if they make a mistake, then they do a U-turn, they listen to the people, and they get on with the job.
All right, well, that's what Andy said. That's
drastic decisions have to be made.
But
interesting, yeah. How do you explain the fact that they told us that they would smash the gangs and they haven't smashed them?
Again, because that is an international situation that requires time.
Right, didn't mention that
and cooperation.
Yeah.
What about saying we won't?
Those things in general. Oh, we're going to sort this out, but it might take ages and it might not work.
What about saying we won't increase the national insurance?
What about increase? But
guess what? The first thing they did was to do that, and they did it at a time when small businesses needed help. Absolute ridiculous policy.
But is this not?
And at a time when AI is taking over a lot of people's jobs, so you want to encourage people to employ people.
This country may be impossible to govern. It may not be Labour's fault. We've got this massive deficit. All they try to do, they try to take 300 quid per household off the pensioners, and we had a massive granny riot.
This country is not impossible to govern. This country has got so much potential. The small businesses of this country, they are the backbone. They need help. They need some vision. You've got a business secretary in Labour right now who's never run a business in his life.
Jonathan Reynolds.
Jonathan Reynolds.
Yeah.
He's a career politician. He's never run a business. How does he know what he's done?
He's been a solicitor, or at least he claimed to have been a solicitor.
But he doesn't know what small businesses need.
After the break, we're taking more of your calls on whether you think... But meanwhile, are Labour as chaotic as the Tories? 020 7862 2222. Bill in Gloucestershire, hi.
Hello, good morning to you, Jeremy. Yes, so my answer for you. I have to start by saying I didn't vote Labour in the election, OK? So my answer is not about defending Labour, because I can't, in some respects, defend them. Nevertheless, to use, because once again, I'm going to go on the theme I've gone on before, 1930s Germany, same situation. We have a situation today where the opposition is weak. And so what comes through the middle? Little Adolf Hitler. What comes through the middle here is Reform UK. They are fascist, whether they want to believe that or not, whether people say they are not or not.
That's
I don't care.
It's not... OK, yeah, I do remember. I like that you always call and say the same thing. It's kind of... we could kind of shape it around the discussion a bit. But... I mean, how you define fascist could take half an hour here. I mean, OK, they're sort of doing it in the democratic way, so that's like a tell that they're not fascists.
Let me ask one more question back. What about the Liberal Democrats? What about the Green Party? What about the SNP?
What about them?
You know, they are opposition. They are opposition that people could vote for. They believe in democracy. All that I've ever seen and heard about Reform UK are people who are opposed to foreigners. They are people who dislike coloured people, although they have coloured people in their ranks. Overall, those people are racist themselves.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on. What I'm saying is that Nigel Farage and Reform UK are a danger to democracy, and that is far more important as to whether or not Labour at the moment are or are not making the...
I don't know why are you getting on your high horse about Farage in this way? He's got 5 MPs. Why are you frightened of him?
Simple as that. It's not. I'm not frightened.
Well, you keep going on about him every time you ring.
I suggest everybody who wants to vote for reform gets on a plane and goes across to Germany and goes to a World War II death camp and has a real think. Okay?
I think the analogy is a bit extreme.
Thank you, Bill. We'll look forward to your next call on the same topic.
The problem we've got here is that we have a complete lack of trust in all politicians regarding what party they're from. And we also, I will say, have a media who have been hostile to this Labour government before it even won the election. We're not talking about the extra billion plus in policing.
We're not hostile to any government.
Before we do the whole I'm outraged by what you just said, listen, please. Over $1 billion extra into policing, cutting NHS waiting lists by over 1 million, investment in schools, free school meals. None of these things are being applauded or talked about. Everything's chaos, everything's negative. They have done some incredible things, actually, for this country. And because it's constantly pipe-fed, everything's awful, everything's wrong,
but we don't
all we think about is a negative, but we don't...
OK, no, fair point.
Conversation is so negative.
It's spending more money they have done on some areas. However, there isn't any money to spend. So they're going to have to raise taxes. Brian in Southampton, hi.
Hi. We should rename the Labour Party the U-turn Party because they're like, they turn every time something, we'll change that and do this. If I did a U-turn on the road, the coppers would fine me. And the way I look at it is that they're just not fit for government. They should put themselves to the people again and re-vote, and we should give someone like the Liberal Democrats a chance. The Liberals.
OK, God, today's discussion's going all over the shop. Andy's point about U-turns is if you're going in the wrong direction, Brian, a safe U-turn is actually a good thing to do.
Yeah, but then again, they may have been in opposition, but you take Reeves. Was she a banker? Did she know anything about money? Really, properly?
Well, she worked in the Bank of England. I know there's been a bit of...
Yeah, she might have worked in it, but she may not have been a real top guru or something. And if you don't know enough debate money, you shouldn't be doing it.
My memory from my parents is that we didn't like Margaret Thatcher because she said, you turn if you want to, the lady's not for turning, and that meant that she was some sort of demagogue who wasn't listening to the people. Now we have a government that's saying, well, let's temper our policies and listen to people's objections and make different choices. Suddenly now that's the right...
I can't believe you're actually defending these U-turns. I genuinely can't.
He sees it as being sensitive.
It's not one, it's like about 5.
But think about this, Saira.
Look at the grooming gangs.
Saira, imagine you're at a party, you're talking to someone, and they say, I fundamentally hate parks, right? And you say, listen, parks are lovely. They've got grass, they've got children's play areas, they've got roses and flower beds and a cafe. And then this person says to you, do you know what? You've made me think about that. I think I quite like parks. You would think better of them. That's what Andy's saying.
I don't get it.
That they were able to turn their thoughts around.
You can't. Listen. You are in government. You have to lead a nation out of debt. You have to grow. You have to give people confidence. You have to give the economy confidence. You have to put policies in place for growth. All you're doing is you're doing nothing and you're spending more money and the debt's growing and it's not sustainable.
Tricksy behaviour to say, please don't do this, it's wrong. And then when the government says, OK, maybe you're right, go, oh, no, now you've U-turned, now I'm even more angry. It's like they can't win, can they?
No.
Do you want them to listen to you or not?
I didn't tell them to do a U-turn.
I say that to the British public.
But the answer to your question is that you sort of ideally want them to get to the right policy before they change.
If I were Prime Minister now, there would be no U-turns. I'd be a complete demagogue. I'd be like, no, we made this decision, we're going to stick to it.
That's what the nation wants.
Well, Liz Truss did that, and look what happened. She exploded. Dawn in Hampshire, hi.
Hello.
Wow,
Danny.
lively one today. So it's only Monday. How are you doing?
I'm okay, and thank you for having this show because it does give people a chance to vent a little bit on what's going on.
Well, do vent away, vent away.
We're venting.
I just think that this country is unbelievably sort of putting their heads under the pillows and not realising what really is going on. There's worldwide chaos anyway. We've had 40 to 40, 50 years of policies which have chipped away at the economy or made decisions about things like privatisation that has affected all of the utilities and other organisations, and some of it's been good and some of it hasn't. And then Labour come in with Blair and they make decisions about joining the Schengen policy of people being able to move around, and then you're
Why is all this... But how does this... I'm trying to work out what the narrative is here, because some of that might be good.
The narrative is that all of the governments subsequently in the last 40 years have made lots and lots of decisions which were wrong ones and right ones. What's happening under the last Tory government was the best time we actually had with them was under the coalition with the Lib Dems.
Was it?
Because that's when people's decisions were more balanced. And yes, there was austerity, but actually the country seemed to run better. And then you get, obviously, the Boris Johnson debacle. And then obviously we have COVID. And then everything sinks. And Labour are trying to come back on things because they're trying to be for the people.
I see.
But actually, you can't be for the people.
OK, I got you. Thank you, Dawn, very much indeed. That's interesting. And thank you for all your calls. Later, we'll be asking if you should be fined for vaping.